Have you ever walked into a room full of people laughing and talking and felt like you were watching everything from behind invisible glass? Like you could see the conversation happening, but something fundamental kept you on the outside looking in? Or maybe you've sat through a dinner party where everyone was excited about a trending TV show, and when they asked what you thought, you had to pause. It's not shyness, it's not social anxiety. It's something else entirely. It's not because you didn't watch it, but because your mind immediately went to the underlying themes, the social commentary, the psychological motivations, and you realized that saying any of that out loud would make the room go quiet in the wrong way. There's a specific kind of loneliness that comes not from being alone, but from being fundamentally different in the way your mind works. It's not about being better than anyone else. It's about processing the world through a lens that most people simply don't have access to. Today, we're going to explore 9 signs that your intelligence isn't just high, it's operating on a frequency that most people can't quite tune into. And by the end of this, you're going to understand why you felt like an outsider for so long, why small talk feels like torture, why you overthink everything, and why, despite being surrounded by people, you often feel profoundly alone. Sign 1. Small talk feels like slow death. Let's start with something you've probably experienced 1,000 times. Someone approaches you and says something like, "Crazy weather we're having, right?" Or, "How about that game last night?" And in that moment, something inside you just dies a little. Not because you're rude, not because you think you're better than them, but because your brain has already run through 17 different responses, analyzed the pointlessness of the exchange, and ultimately decided that participating in this conversation is going to drain energy you can never get back. For most people, small talk is social lubrication. It's the way humans build comfort and connection. But for you, small talk isn't harmless. It's excruciating. Because while they're talking about the weather, your mind is thinking about climate patterns, atmospheric science, or the strange ritual of discussing something everyone already knows, just to fill silence. Dr. Csikszentmihalyi, who developed the concept of flow states, explains that highly intelligent minds require complex stimulation to stay engaged. When the conversation doesn't offer that complexity, your brain essentially goes into power-saving mode. You're physically present, but mentally, you've left the building. And here's what makes it worse. You've learned to fake it. You've developed a public-facing version of yourself, one that can nod and smile while your actual thoughts are locked away in a vault. You've become an actor playing the role of a normal person who cares about normal things. And every time you do it, a small part of you feels like a fraud. The truly intelligent don't just want to exchange words. They want to exchange ideas. They want conversations that go somewhere, that build towards something, that leave both people slightly changed by the end. And when you can't have that, it feels like your most precious resource, your mental energy, is being wasted on something that doesn't matter. Sign 2. You question absolutely everything. Someone shares a fact in a group chat. Everyone reacts with thumbs-up emojis and moves on. But you pause. Something in your brain says, "Wait, is that actually true?" And before you know it, you're down a rabbit hole. You're Googling the claim. You're checking the source. You're analyzing the methodology. You're not doing this to be difficult. You're doing it because your mind has a built-in fact-checker that refuses to accept information at face value. Psychologists call this epistemic curiosity, the relentless need to verify, to understand, to dig deeper. And while it protects you from manipulation, it also exhausts you. Because while everyone else is peacefully accepting the world as it's presented, you're mentally tearing apart every claim to see if it holds up under scrutiny. This extends to everything: politics, religion, social norms, traditions. When someone says, "This is just how we've always done it," your brain immediately responds with, "But why?" Because questioning everything means never feeling certain. It means constantly holding multiple contradictory ideas in your head and being comfortable with not knowing which one is right. Most people find comfort in certainty. You find comfort in accuracy, and those two things are rarely the same. Research shows that highly intelligent people have what's called a tolerance for ambiguity. They can sit with uncertainty without feeling the desperate need to choose an answer just to make the discomfort go away. While others rush to conclusions to feel safe, you stay in the question longer because you'd rather be confused and accurate than confident and wrong. But this comes at a cost. People start seeing you as difficult, as cynical. They don't realize that you're not trying to be negative. You're just allergic to intellectual laziness. You can't turn off the part of you that refuses to take anything on faith. And the irony? The smarter you get, the more questions you have, because every answer you find opens 5 new doors. So while other people feel like they understand the world, you're painfully aware of just how little you actually know. Sign 3. Your internal dialogue is a war zone. Close your eyes for a second and listen to your thoughts. What do you hear? If you're like most highly intelligent people, you don't hear one voice. You hear several, and they're arguing. One voice says, "This is a great idea." Another immediately counters with, "But what if it fails?" A third jumps in with, "Even if it works, is it really worth the effort?" And a fourth whispers, "You're overthinking this." Welcome to the courtroom in your head, where every thought is cross-examined, every idea is put on trial, and nothing gets approved without running through multiple rounds of internal debate. Philosophers call this dialectical reasoning, the process of constructing and then immediately deconstructing your own beliefs to test their strength. For you, this isn't optional, it's automatic. You can't just have an opinion, you have to challenge it. You can't just make a decision, you have to argue with yourself about whether it's the right one. Dr. Daniel Kahneman, the Nobel Prize-winning psychologist, explains that the human mind operates on 2 systems. System 1 is fast and intuitive. System 2 is slow and analytical. Most people live primarily in System 1. You live almost entirely in System 2. And System 2 is exhausting. This is why conversations with you can feel intense. Because by the time you speak, you've already mentally debated 5 different ways to say it, anticipated 3 possible objections, and prepared counter-arguments for each. You're not trying to dominate. You're just sharing the conclusion of an internal debate that's already been fought and won. But here's the painful part. This internal cross-examination never stops, even when you're trying to sleep. Your brain keeps running simulations, testing hypotheses, questioning assumptions. And while this makes you exceptional at critical thinking, it makes it nearly impossible to experience peace. You rarely feel certain about anything, because for every position you take, your mind immediately generates the opposite argument, and both arguments are compelling. So you end up in this constant state of intellectual tension, always seeing both sides, always understanding why there's no simple answer. Most people call this overthinking. You call it Tuesday. Sign 4. You're hyper-aware of things. Others miss. You walk into a room and immediately notice things. The person in the corner who's smiling, but their eyes look sad. The slight tension between 2 people who are pretending everything's fine. The micro-expression that flashed across someone's face for half a second before they composed themselves. While everyone else is having a good time, you're unconsciously reading the room like it's a book written in a language only you can understand. This isn't paranoia. This is pattern recognition on overdrive. Your brain is wired to spot inconsistencies, to detect subtle changes, to pick up on signals that most people's brains filter out as irrelevant noise. Dr. Paul Ekman, the psychologist who pioneered the study of facial expressions and micro-expressions, found that certain people have a natural ability to read emotions with remarkable accuracy. These people don't just see what others show, they see what others are trying to hide. This ability makes you exceptional at understanding people. You can sense when someone's lying before they finish their sentence. You can feel when a friendship is starting to fade before the other person even realizes it. You pick up on power dynamics, hidden agendas, and unspoken tensions that everyone else seems oblivious to. But this superpower comes with a price. You can't turn it off. You're constantly absorbing information, constantly processing, and all that data, all those emotional signals, they stick. They accumulate. They weigh on you. This is why social situations exhaust you. Not because you don't like people, but because your brain is working overtime, picking up on every subtle cue, every shift in energy, every unspoken message. By the end of the night, you're not just tired. You're drained. Because you haven't just been at a party. You've been conducting an unconscious psychological analysis of everyone in the room. While you're seeing all of this, most people see nothing. They take conversations at face value. They miss the signals you can't stop noticing. And when you try to explain what you're seeing, they look at you like you're imagining things, but you're not imagining anything. You're just seeing what's actually there. And that can be one of the loneliest experiences in the world. Sign 5. You have a dark sense of humor. There's a joke you found hilarious. You laughed. Really laughed. But when you shared it with others, they didn't laugh. They looked uncomfortable, maybe even concerned, because the joke was about something dark. Death, tragedy, the absurdity of human suffering. And you're left wondering if there's something wrong with you. Why can you laugh at things that make others cringe? The answer is neither broken nor cruel. Research from the University of Vienna found that people with higher intelligence are significantly more likely to appreciate dark humor. Not because they're insensitive, but because understanding dark humor requires a specific cognitive ability. You have to hold two contradictory emotions at once. You have to see the tragedy and the absurdity simultaneously. Dark humor is a coping mechanism. It's what happens when a mind that sees too much finds a way to process the unprocessable. When you've stared into the void long enough, sometimes the only thing left to do is laugh at it. Not because it's funny, but because laughter is a declaration of survival. It says, "This is terrible, but it won't destroy me." Comedians like George Carlin and Robin Williams built entire careers on this. They saw the darkness in the world more clearly than most, and instead of letting it crush them, they turned it into art. They made people laugh at uncomfortable truths. When you laugh at something dark, you're not dismissing the pain. You're refusing to let the pain have the final word. You're showing that you understand the tragedy so deeply that you've moved past shock and arrived at the only rational response left. The recognition that life is absurd, suffering is universal, and sometimes all you can do is shake your head and laugh. But most people aren't there yet. They're still in the stage where darkness must be met with solemnity. And when you make a joke they're not ready for, they judge you for it. They think you don't care. They don't realize that your humor is proof of exactly the opposite, that you care so much, that you feel so deeply, that you've had to develop this defense mechanism just to keep functioning in a world that can be unbearably painful. Sign 6. You overthink even the simplest decisions. Someone asks you a simple question. What do you want for dinner? And suddenly, your brain explodes into action. It's not just about what sounds good. It's about nutritional value, what you ate yesterday, Whether you have leftovers that need to be used, the cost, the preparation time, what the other person might prefer. By the time you've run through this entire mental simulation, 5 minutes have passed, and the person who asked is staring at you, wondering why a simple question turned into an existential crisis. They don't understand that for you, there are no simple questions. Your brain doesn't see a choice between option A and option B. It sees a branching tree of consequences extending infinitely into the future. Psychologists call this analysis paralysis, the state of being so overwhelmed by possibilities that you struggle to make any decision at all. And while it makes you an excellent strategic thinker, it also makes everyday life exhausting. Dr. Barry Schwartz, author of The Paradox of Choice, explains that having too many options doesn't make us happier. It makes us more anxious. And when you combine abundant options with a mind that naturally runs every scenario, you end up in a state of constant low-level stress. This extends to social situations too. After a conversation ends, you replay it in your mind. You analyze every word you said, every pause, every facial expression. Did they seem uncomfortable? Did I talk too much? Did I come across as arrogant or weird? Most people have a conversation and move on. You have a conversation and then spend the next hour performing a forensic analysis of it, not because you're insecure, but because your brain treats every interaction as data that needs to be processed and learned from. The challenge is that this level of analysis is both your greatest strength and your heaviest burden. It helps you avoid mistakes. It allows you to see consequences others miss, but it also means you rarely experience spontaneity. You rarely feel that carefree lightness that comes from just doing something without thinking it to death first. Sign 7. You're constantly searching for deeper meaning. You're watching a movie with friends. It's a simple action film. Explosions, car chases. The good guy wins. Everyone seems satisfied. But you're sitting there thinking about the subtext, the themes, the social commentary hidden beneath the surface. And when someone asks, "Did you like it?" you hesitate, because what they're really asking is, "Was it entertaining?" But your brain went to a completely different place. You're analyzing it like it's a piece of literature when everyone else just wanted to watch things blow up. This hunger for depth isn't limited to movies. It extends to everything. You can't just enjoy a song. You have to understand the lyrics, the composition, what the artist was feeling. You can't just accept a belief. You have to trace it back to its philosophical roots. You can't participate in a tradition without asking why that tradition exists. Dr. Abraham Maslow, the psychologist famous for his hierarchy of needs, talked about self-actualization, the need to understand, to find meaning, to become the fullest version of yourself. For most people, this need kicks in occasionally. For highly intelligent people, it's a constant drive. Your brain is always asking, but what does it mean? This makes shallow content almost painful to consume. Reality TV, celebrity gossip, trending topics that will be forgotten in a week. While others find entertainment in these things, you find yourself frustrated. It feels like junk food for the mind. And this creates another layer of isolation. Because the world runs on surface-level content, most conversations, most media, most daily interactions don't have the depth you crave, so you end up feeling like you're constantly starving for substance in a world that's perfectly satisfied with fluff. Sign 8. You feel emotionally out of sync with everyone. There's a group of people laughing at something. You understand the joke intellectually. You can see why it's supposed to be funny, but you don't feel it. Or everyone's excited about something that seems trivial to you. A sports game, a celebrity announcement, and you're standing there trying to mirror their enthusiasm, but inside you feel absolutely nothing. This isn't about being cold or emotionless. It's about having emotional responses that are calibrated differently. Dr. Kazimierz Dabrowski, a Polish psychologist, developed the theory of positive disintegration. Part of this theory discusses emotional overexcitability in highly intelligent individuals. Essentially, your emotional responses are more intense, more complex, and often triggered by different things. You might not care about the game, but you'll lie awake at night thinking about the implications of artificial intelligence. You might not get excited about a celebrity's relationship, but you'll feel profound sadness watching a documentary about climate change. Your emotional energy is reserved for things that feel significant, meaningful, cosmically important. And this creates a strange problem. In social situations, you're expected to emote in sync with everyone else, but your emotional bandwidth is allocated elsewhere. You're carrying existential concerns about the nature of reality while everyone else is debating which restaurant to go to. This doesn't make you better than them. It makes you different. And that difference feels lonely because emotions are how humans bond. When your emotional responses don't match the group's, you can't fully participate in that bonding. Sign 9. You prefer solitude but feel guilty about it. Friday night. Your phone buzzes with an invitation. Party, gathering, drinks with friends. And your first feeling isn't excitement, it's dread. Not because you dislike these people, but because the idea of putting on your social mask, of being on for several hours, feels more exhausting than a full day of work. But then the guilt hits. What's wrong with me? Why don't I want to go? Normal people enjoy these things. Am I broken? So maybe you force yourself to go, and maybe you even have a decent time. But the moment you get home, the relief is overwhelming, because you can finally take off the mask. You can finally be alone with your thoughts without having to translate them into socially acceptable language. Research in personality psychology, particularly the work of Hans Eysenck, shows that introversion isn't about shyness or social anxiety. It's about how your brain processes stimulation. Introverts, especially highly intelligent ones, have a lower threshold for optimal arousal. What feels energizing to extroverts feels overwhelming to you. But it's more than just introversion. For you, solitude isn't just restful, it's necessary. It's the only environment where your mind can fully operate without restriction, where you don't have to slow down your thoughts, where you can explore the strange, complex, abstract territories of your mind without judgment. Susan Cain, author of Quiet, The Power of Introverts, explains that solitude has been essential to creativity and deep thinking throughout history. The greatest thinkers, artists, and innovators often did their best work alone. Not because they hated people, but because certain types of mental work require uninterrupted time with your own thoughts. Yet society treats solitude as something to be fixed. People worry about you. They try to pull you into social situations for your own good. They don't understand that forcing you to be social when you need to be alone is like forcing someone to eat when they're full. And the guilt compounds the problem, because you've been taught that connection is good and isolation is bad. So even when you're enjoying your solitude, there's this nagging voice asking if you should be out there doing what normal people do. You're not broken for needing time alone. You're just someone whose mind requires a different environment to function optimally. And that's not a flaw. That's just how you're built. So here we are. 9 signs that your intelligence is operating on a different wavelength. Small talk tortures you. If you recognize yourself in these signs, I want you to understand something crucial. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are not weird or wrong. Your brain works differently, and that difference is not a flaw. It's a feature. The world needs people like you. People who question instead of accepting. People who think deeply instead of reacting quickly. People who see the patterns others miss. So which sign resonated most with you? Drop a comment below and subscribe for more content that explores the complex, beautiful, sometimes painful experience of being human. Remember, Being too smart for most people doesn't mean you're above them. It means you're different. And different isn't better or worse. It's just different. Honor that difference, protect it, use it. Because your unique perspective is exactly what the world needs, even if the world doesn't always know it yet.